British music. Just these two words make you think of famous bands, legendary albums, and a huge impact on music across the world. From rock and roll to love songs, British musicians have always been super important in music. In this video, we'll look back at how British music evolved from the Beatles to today's stars. Get ready to hear those unforgettable songs again and see why British music still matters everywhere. Our story starts in the 1960s in Liverpool. Four young guys, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, were about to change music forever. The Beatles' music captured what young people wanted, change, and a way to express themselves. Their charm, unique style, and message of peace and love made them super famous. The Beatles became the face of a new kind of music and a cultural phenomenon. The Beatles' arrival was like a musical earthquake. Early hits like Love Me Do and I Want to Hold Your Hand were about young love. They experimented in the studio, using unusual instruments and creating psychedelic sounds. Albums like Rubber Soul and Revolver showed how their music was growing up. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band changed what an album could be. It was a concept album full of musical creativity. With Sgt. Pepper, the Beatles became known as musical pioneers. The Beatles weren't just about music. They became cultural icons, trendsetters that everyone copied. Their haircuts, clothes, and funny personalities were everywhere. They challenged what society thought was normal and encouraged a generation to think differently. The Beatles' message of unity and hope reached people everywhere. The Beatles didn't last that long, but their impact on music and culture is still huge. People of all ages still love their music. You can hear their influence in the music of so many artists who came after them. The Beatles' creativity and passion for their art still inspire musicians today. They represent a special time when music could change the world. The Beatles' story shows how powerful music can be. As the 1960s became the 1970s, young people in Britain felt let down. The economy was bad and society was restless, making people unhappy. Progressive rock and huge concerts dominated music. Punk rock emerged, angry at the excesses of mainstream music. It was about attitude, energy, and doing things yourself. Punk rejected the way things were, a shout from a generation that felt ignored. It was a social and cultural movement that challenged rules and embraced being different. No band represented punk rock's energy like the Sex Pistols. Formed in London in 1975, they became the face of punk's explosion. Their music was raw, loud, and meant to shock. Songs like Anarchy in the UK and God Save the Queen challenged British society. The Sex Pistols' confrontational attitude and chaotic look defined punk. Punk changed British music and culture in a big way. Its DIY attitude and raw energy inspired tons of artists. The movement created independent record labels, fanzines, and music venues. Punk's influence could be felt in post-punk, new wave, and even Britpop. It challenged the way things were and inspired a generation to question authority. Punk's legacy still influences music, fashion, and activism today. In the 1990s, Britain was at a crossroads. Then came Britpop, all about cool Britannia. Britpop celebrated being British and rejected the gloomy grunge style. It was a cultural phenomenon that influenced fashion, art, and even politics. The Union. Jack became cool, and young British culture was leading the way. Britpop was a celebration of British music's return to the world stage. At the heart of Britpop was a legendary rivalry. Oasis versus Blur. Oasis, the working-class heroes from Manchester, were led by the Gallagher brothers. Their anthemic rock captured a generation's spirit. Blur, the artsy guys from London, had a more diverse sound. Their clever, satirical lyrics reflected the absurdity of modern life. The rivalry became a media frenzy, fueled by public arguments and contrasting images. It was a battle for the soul of Britpop. By the late 1990s, Britpop's initial wave had faded, but its impact on British music and culture was undeniable. Britpop brought optimism and energy back to music. Its influence could be felt in bands like Coldplay and Keane. Britpop was a golden era, inspiring artists and music lovers today. While Britpop was big, a pop revolution was also happening. The 1990s saw a wave of fun, catchy pop music from Britain. This new pop had attitude and energy. It reflected the changing attitudes of a generation. Leading this pop revolution were girl power and boy bands. The Spice Girls championed girl power with their message of female empowerment. Their songs became anthems for young girls. Then there were boy bands like Take That, winning hearts with their dance moves and love songs. The boy band phenomenon paved the way for future pop groups. The British pop explosion of the 1990s was huge worldwide. Bands like the Spice Girls and Take That were popular everywhere. British pop music became the soundtrack to a generation. It proved that British artists could do pop as well as rock. This era paved the way for a new generation of British pop stars. In the 2000s, British music was still on top, but with a new kind of star. Gone were the Britpop battles and manufactured pop groups. Now it was all about singer-songwriters, artists who could both sing amazingly and write their own songs. They created music that a new generation who wanted authenticity and real emotion connected with. These new icons didn't stick to just one style. They mixed pop with folk, soul, R&B, and even hip-hop, creating sounds that were both familiar and new. They were storytellers, putting tales of love, loss, heartbreak, and hope into their music, making deep connections with listeners. This new wave of British artists wasn't just making hits, they were creating the soundtrack to millions of lives. Their music a constant presence in a world increasingly driven by online connection and emotional openness. No one embodies the raw emotion and vocal power of this new generation like Adele. Her voice, filled with both strength and vulnerability, has touched millions around the world. Coming out of London's vibrant music scene in the late 2000s, Adele had a voice that seemed way beyond her years, full of feeling and honesty that resonated deeply with listeners. Her unique sound stood out in a crowded industry, making her an instant sensation. Her first album, 19, released in 2008, introduced the world to her incredible voice and her talent for writing heartbreaking ballads. The album was a raw and honest portrayal of her experiences, capturing the essence of young love and heartbreak. Songs like Chasing Pavements and Someone Like You became instant classics, their lyrics about love, loss, and heartbreak resonating with everyone. These songs showcased her ability to connect with her audience on a deeply personal level. Adele's next albums, 21 and 25, made her a global superstar. These albums not only solidified her place in the music industry, but also showcased her growth as an artist and a person. Her music crossed genres, ages, and cultures, connecting with people on a deeply emotional level. Whether young or old, from different backgrounds, her songs spoke to universal human experiences. Her voice, able to hit both powerful high notes and deeply emotional lows, became instantly recognizable, a force that could silence a room or make a stadium erupt. It was this versatility that made her performances unforgettable. Adele wasn't just a singer, she was a storyteller, sharing her feelings and experiences through her music. She became a voice for a generation dealing with the complexities of love, loss, and finding themselves, making her an irreplaceable icon in modern music. While Adele wowed the world with her soulful songs, her powerful voice and deeply emotional lyrics resonated with millions. Two other British artists were also becoming global stars, each carving out their own unique paths in the music industry, each changing pop music in their own way. Their innovative approaches and distinct styles set them apart. EdSheeran, with just his guitar and loop pedal, created a sound that was both intimate and expansive, came from the UK's singer-songwriter scene with his own style of heartfelt pop, blending raw emotion with catchy hooks, mixing folk with hip-hop and a talent for writing catchy melodies. His songs, often deeply personal, often very personal but relatable to everyone, struck a chord with listeners around the world, connected with a global audience, making him a beloved figure in the music scene, making him a chart topper and one of the most streamed artists ever. His ability to blend genres and create memorable melodies. Sheeran's success came from his ability to connect with listeners emotionally, his lyrics about everyday joys and pains resonating with sincerity. Meanwhile, Harry Styles, once a member of the hugely popular One Direction, went solo and shattered expectations, embracing musical freedom in exciting and unexpected ways. Styles' solo work was a revelation. A mix of influences from classic rock to psychedelic pop. All held together by his undeniable charisma, and a voice that was both vulnerable and confident. He wasn't afraid to experiment, to push boundaries, and to be himself artistically, captivating a new generation of fans with his diverse sound and star power. Both Sheeran and Styles have shown that British artists continue to innovate and dominate the global music scene. From Liverpool to the world stage, British music has had an incredible journey, leaving a lasting impact on culture everywhere. It's a journey that began in the clubs and pubs of Britain, where raw talent and passion for music were nurtured and honed. It's a story of change, revolution, and always striving for something new, showing how music can cross borders, languages, and generations. British music has always been at the forefront of innovation, constantly evolving and adapting to the times. The Beatles, with their youthful energy and amazing songwriting, started a cultural phenomenon, changing popular music forever. Their influence can still be felt today, as new generations discover their timeless music and the stories behind their songs. Punk rock, fueled by frustration and a do-it-yourself spirit, gave a voice to those who felt unheard, challenging social norms and bringing raw energy to music. It was a movement that inspired countless bands and fans to express themselves freely. Britpop, celebrating British identity and a return to melody, reminded the world of the power of guitar anthems and meaningful lyrics. Bands like Oasis and Blur became household names, their songs becoming anthems for a generation. The 1990s pop explosion, led by girl power and boy band harmonies, solidified British music's global dominance, showing its ability to create catchy pop hits that everyone loved. Groups like the Spice Girls and Take That became global sensations, their music resonating with fans of all ages. And today, a new generation of British artists, with raw talent, honesty, and a willingness to experiment, continue to push the boundaries of pop music, captivating audiences worldwide with their unique blend of new sounds and deep lyrics. Artists like Adele, Ed Sheeran, and Stormzy are leading the charge, each bringing their own unique style to the global stage. British music is more than just songs. It's a reflection of a nation's spirit, a soundtrack to our lives. a constant companion through good times and bad. It's the music that plays at our celebrations, comforts us in our sorrows, and inspires us to dream. It's a reminder that music can unite us, inspire us, challenge us, and comfort us. It brings people together, transcending differences and creating a shared experience that is both powerful and profound. And as long as there are artists in Britain with stories to tell and melodies to share, the world will keep listening, being moved, and finding comfort in the enduring legacy of British music. The future of British music is bright, with endless possibilities and new horizons to explore.